Wheat may be the basis for most breads, but corn is an American specialty. The grain that first grew on this continent has been a key source of nutrition for its Native American inhabitants. Today we call it cornbread, and its centuries-old traditions are preserved at places like Big Mama's Southern Barbecue in Pasadena, California.
Beautiful.
Dorgan McWhorter and his children run Big Mama's restaurant.
You almost cut that thing good as your old day.
It's named in honor of the family matriarch, Emma Sue McWhorter, who provided the original recipes.
Big Mama was my mother and his grandmother. And she's from, Big Mama was born in Georgia. She learned from her grandmother, who was part Cherokee.
You ready to whip up a batch of some hot water cornbread?
Yes.
Southern cooking was heavily influenced by Native American dishes, which relied on corn.
That looks like 2 cups of cornmeal.
When the wheat-loving Europeans settled the continent, they disparagingly referred to cornbread as Indian bread. It became stigmatized, associated with hardship and poverty.
This is hot water cornbread. Now this has been passed down for centuries.
Hot water cornbread is held together by superheating the cornmeal to make it congeal. To form the patties, the hands must be icy cold to keep it from sticking. Then it's fried. This soul food staple has its roots in Native American cooking.
A lot of the southern African Americans married into the Indian tribe. Soul food is a blend and mixture of everything.
As cornbread became a staple of Southern cooking, new ingredients were gradually added, like pork fat, sugar, buttermilk, and eggs.
Delicious.
Ditto.
Family recipes became jealously guarded secrets.
And you couldn't get it. You couldn't get the recipe. They would not give it to you.
All right, will you give me the recipe for your cornbread?
No.
We may never learn the recipe of Big Mama's cornbread, but another bread has had the same recipe for 2,000 years. Altar bread, also known as a communion wafer, is used in the sacrament of communion in the Catholic Church. It is made only of flour and water, reflecting the Last Supper in which Jesus broke unleavened bread with his disciples. Still, how it is made and where it is made are not widely known. In most of the world, nuns bake the holy wafers. But in the United States, 80% of the bread that is placed on the tongues of faithful Catholics is produced here. In the village of Greenville, Rhode Island, the Kavanaugh family has been baking altar bread for the last 40 years.
Well, it started with my grandfather, who was an inventor with about 120 patents to his name.
Kavanaugh's parish priest asked him to invent a machine that local nuns could use to increase their production of altar bread. It was the 1950s, when fewer and fewer American women were entering convents. By the 1960s, even with Kavanaugh's help, the remaining nuns could no longer keep up with baby boomer demand for the holy wafers.
So it was at that time that Kavanaugh Company began baking and supplying the nuns or convents with the breads rather than the equipment. That it was good for them, good for us, so it worked well.
Kavanaugh Company has devised a way to make something beautiful and edible from just 2 ingredients.
By canon law, we cannot put in any material other than flour and water. So we're really limited, but the equipment that we have is able to manufacture quite well with those requirements.
The unleavened flour and water mixture is streamed onto heated baking sheets and baked for 95 seconds into a thin, rigid sheet of bread. The rotary die cut seals the edges of the bread so nothing can chip off. A tumbler separates the large breads from the small, and like-sized wafers are sucked up into pressurized tubes, whisked away to packaging. Each day, Kavanaugh Company produces about 9 million pieces of altar bread.
My favorite wafer by far is the 1.5 inch special. There are 3 separate, unique, beautiful designs done by my father and uncle. The bread also has increased wheat germ in it that gives it extra flavor and extra color. When you do go up to the altar and receive, it's a much more significant wafer.
And in a remarkable change in American preferences, whole wheat wafers account for over 60% of Cavanaugh's altar bread orders. On the Day of the Dead in Mexican culture, celebrants eat pan de muerto, bread of the dead, embellished with a crossed bones design. Bread will return.